This short video will demonstrate the primary use cases and workings of Skill Author and Skill Mapper. Important to note, I might refer to Skill Author as OpenSalt because that's how it's currently branded still. So the primary purpose of Skill Author here is to create, manage, and share or export competency frameworks. A competency framework is like a taxonomy of educational objectives that's stored in the case specification format. So here we have a blank screen essentially, and I can import a case JSON file. I can also import via spreadsheet. For this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and just import a case file here. So right now, once you've loaded the file, you have to kind of know what you loaded. So in this case, I loaded this particular framework. When I'm looking at this, I can see it represented in a tree structure. Right now, it's an adopted framework, so I can't even really edit anything. But if I go here, I can actually still do a rudimentary set of creating associations. Associations are when we're linking two sets of skills between each other. And I just drag and drop currently to do that. I can only do it one at a time, and I can select different case association types as well from here. But again, it's a manual process. The only thing that's maybe a little bit non-manual is I can do a nice filter. So if I want to do something like search for grammar, okay, or maybe words, right? It's going to show me something, a whole bunch of like a filter of where that key term is in there. But again, it's a one at a time thing. I also have the ability to do some rudimentary things around association groups, but it's pretty basic, pretty manual. I can see my association types here, and that kind of thing. So another thing I want to mention here is we're looking at the URI. So when I'm going in, I can go through and say, what is the exact URI here? And that's the identifier. So this brings me to a page. It's kind of the back end showing me exactly where things are coming from. Okay, so that's that. Now there is an important thing to note about Skill Author. Here is that it is storing what we call the crosswalk files over here. So if I go and I look at the Holistic Framework to Novation, as an example, it looks empty, but really it's because all of the associations are here. So again, when I make an association, that completed set of associations is called a crosswalk. And what Skill Mapper aims to do is to much more rapidly create these crosswalks because, again, you could do it manually, but that would take a long time, especially if you don't know exactly how these things are supposed to work together, supposed to fit together. Our Holistic Framework for Math, for example, has 2,904 statements, skill statements, and the Novation subject taxonomy, which is another math taxonomy that we need to link together. That's one of our primary business cases, is to link those two math statement taxonomies together so that our resources can be linked. Anything mapped to the Holistic Framework can also be mapped to that Novation taxonomy. And so it's a much more efficient way of linking educational resources as opposed to having to retag all those resources independently. Again, so the persona for this is someone in the district who knows about the standards and knows exactly the context by which their standards are supposed to work. So we do that work here over in Skill Mapper. I can manage my crosswalks here. So for example, I'll just show you the one I just showed. It's the Holistic Framework and the Novation. Again, we select any two taxonomies. Right now, this isn't a tree view, it's a list. So I can go in and I can click on that list and click down until I get to my statement level. So draw connections among the size of equipartition single holes. And it's going to then suggest, so that's the Holistic Framework statement. It's then suggesting statements from the Novation taxonomy that it thinks are going to be related. It's doing this with a combination of several factors. Mainly it's doing statement to statement. If there's concept keywords, it's going to be able to use those concept keywords as well. And then we go through and if there is not a match here, then I would hit reject. And if there is something I can actually link together, then I would hit map. And then again, that is actually then populating that crosswalk file over on Skill Author because they share a database. So that's my primary use case. Again, it's going to be a different person building the taxonomies and even managing the crosswalks and whatnot. That's a separate person. Person using Skill Author is going to have a little bit more technical know-how. They're going to have more authority. There's going to be a lot of regular users using this. They'll just come in, looking at their crosswalks ready to go, and just going to start curating, they're going to start going on these lists. They need to know, which they don't know right now. They need to know how far along they are. They need to know which ones don't have any matches, things like that. And that's our primary use case.